What's happening, good people? This is your boy CY, Mr. 8020. I keep telling you I'm going to add this to my signature and start signing that. But I'm happy to be here today with my guy, my brother, my friend, and just an overall great person. We have Mr. RHJ Consulting himself. He's an
Hey,
author. He's a TEDx speaker. He's a ex corporate executive who is also now known as the corporate dropout. He's just a great human being to begin with. And I get the opportunity to interact with him on a consistent basis and just get to know him outside of all of the glitz that you see. Know his journey, know his struggle, know his pain. So we got this brother to come on here and to talk about his book, recent TEDx talk. He's like I said, he's Mr. TEDx now. That's what I'm gonna start calling him. This is my guy, Mr. Robert H. Johnson Jr. How you doing today, Robert?
hey, what's going on, Mr. 8020? I'm doing good, bro, man. Excited to be here with you and um, with your community, and looking forward to a great conversation. I'm blessed and I'm grateful.
All right, man. It's a pleasure having you on here. We actually shoot episodes every time we talk because we talk about so much things, inclusive of life and just growth and maturation. So it makes sense for you to come back and talk about the book, talk about your speech with TEDx, talk about the conference that you recently pulled off, and just discuss all things RHJ related, man. So again, I'm grateful to have you on here, man. Are you ready for Thanksgiving, man? You got the turkey in the oven, you got all that stuff going.
My mom has the turkey and the Cornish hens, and all of those things, but I can't say that I'm doing any contribution other than what I got to pick up for from Walmart or from the store. But I'm ready. I just looking forward to just spending time with family, relaxing, and as I think about Thanksgiving, I just have so much to be grateful for. We all have so much to be grateful for, so I'm ready. How about you?
I'm about as ready as we gonna get, brother. Got my wife and my mother-in-law and my aunt-in-law and her godmom. They're down here to celebrate with us. My wife's mom recently moved down here, so she's a full-time Dallas, Texas resident. I mean, well, Aubrey, Texas resident now. So we're gonna, spend some time with them, enjoy the holidays with the kids, man, and just, again, cherish every moment that we have, because you don't get too many of them, man, and you never know when the last one will be. So yeah, man. How are things going with RSJ Consulting? What are you what's in your thought process these days, man? Because I know it's always something with you. Not saying that's a bad thing. It's just I know you're always pushing the envelope forward and looking to grow.
Yeah, man, that's a good question. I was just thinking a moment ago before we jumped on. Somebody says it from back in the day. Don't talk about it, be about it, right? And so for me, I'm action oriented. I'm not one of these people that's going to tell you what I'm doing. I just do it, and then you see that it's done. Um, and so I don't know where. I don't know if that comes from how I grew up, but or it comes from seeing people just talk so much about what they're gonna do and then they don't do anything. Nothing against that, but even the word talks about you got to keep some things close to your vest. You got to keep guard your heart, and at the end of the day, your vision for your life and for your business and for your family, that's a heart matter. It's not a mind matter. And so I just wanted to share that because I was literally just thinking about that. That's just who I am. I do and learn from it and grow forward. And so in terms of what's where we're at with the business right now, as we're wrapping up the year, we're looking at Q1 and really 2025 as a whole. strategically, how are we going to operate, from what we offer? How do we refine to meet today, climate, where they are, but help usher them into where they need to go, whether they want to or not. Because at the end of the day, whether you want to or not, regardless of what the thing is, sometimes it's what you need to do. And so I'm excited about 2025. Got some great folks um, consulting me, advising me, and just growing. And at the same time, keeping room for God to pivot, because I could think it's one thing, but God has a whole nother plan. And we talked about this recently. Like, I stay open. I'm not so rigid that it's absolutely this way or not. And if you listen to people who have done anything in life big outside of themselves, and sometimes big is just changing the trajectory of your family's, generational cycle. That's huge, as a matter of fact, because you made one decision, right? We not that you asked all of this, but we're just in that process of planning, but also making sure that not to leave room, but to plan for room for God. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Look, you share what's on your heart, what's in your mind. We this is just a discussion on life growth, personal development, all the things that we often talk about, right? I think sometimes people don't do not really have a group or a circle of people that are talking things upward.
Yeah.
It's typically about what's going on with Puff Daddy. Albeit that's news, but that's not going to help me get where I need to go, right? Or they're talking about what's going on with the political landscape, and although that's important and we need to be aware of that, right? I think oftentimes we look for external factors to change us internally, and once we
Yeah.
start to understand that we cannot control the world outside of us, but we have so much ability within us to control the world that we can create through our mind and through God downloading what we need, that life is on us. So I often say this now is we look for people to come and save us, but we have to save ourselves. He's
Yeah.
literally giving us the power, the blueprint, everything that we need. We just got to figure out how to use it for our advantage and to be able to move forward. And it just starts with like your state of mind, where you're at, who you're around. And we talked about it this morning on the call. Like, when you really look at it, I seen a meme and it just blew my mind that your ear looks like a womb.
Yeah.
And so what you see, what you start to intake here goes here, then it goes there. And once it gets
Yeah.
there, you're going to action it. So we need to make sure that we are guarding what we're taking. And I did a whole episode, I do like a micro episode on personal development after I have a guest. So like after you come on, then I'll drop
Mhm.
like a little 15 minute episode where I'll go over a personal development topic. But I just did a whole personal development topic on guarding your gates
Yeah.
and being able to control what you intake, because what you intake is what's really going to actually come out of you
Yeah.
at some point, sometime. Like, and I made an analogy when I was talking to somebody else. If I have a cup of coffee in my hand and you walk by and you bump my elbow and I spill the coffee, did I spill the coffee because you bumped into me, or did I spill the coffee because that's what was in the cup?
Wow.
So when
That's
somebody bumps you or triggers you, what's in you is automatically coming out of you.
yeah. Yeah.
So if it was tea in the cup, tea would have come out. If there was
That's right.
soda in the cup, soda would have come out. So if you
Yeah.
think about what is intrinsically in me, is going to show up externally at some point in time, no matter what happens in life, because that is what is in me. So
Yeah.
if we can
Yeah.
control what is in us, we can begin to make huge changes and strides in life. So man, let's kind of segue into one of the reasons we're on the call, and one reason is that I really want to listen to. You're an author now, and you have a book on Amazon. So take me through the process of what sparked you writing a book.
Yeah,
What gave you the idea that, look, I can write a book, I can be an author? And then just kind of explain the process to the viewers of this podcast. And as you're viewing, viewers, we need you to like, share, hit that subscribe button, and comment. Don't forget to do that as you're listening to this podcast. And if you find value in it, all I'm asking that you do is that you share it with somebody else.
absolutely. Love that. And you know what? My answer to your question is really, I want to start where you ended around internal versus external. One of the things that I realized, fortunately, younger in life, is that who I am inside is a direct reflection on what I am on the outside. Who we are internally creates and manifests the reality of our life. And so I can trace that back to, high school, college, corporate, so on and so forth. The more I began to pour in and to heal spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and even knowledge wise, the more I became better, the better my external environment became, the better my relationships became, the better my effectiveness at my corporate job became. And I wanted to start there because I think so many times people wait for the external situation to change their internal person. But until you become the person inside, your reality is going to stay the same until you take the class, until you get a coach, until you control your tongue, until you change your thoughts, until you change what you listen to, until you change what you consume. Your reality, whether it's physical, you're a physical person, or your external environment, is not going to change. But the moment you change one thing, you change everything, right? And so when you ask the question, what made me become an author? What made me write the book? I wrote the book in January. I released the book in October. I wrote the book because I knew that there was a tool, a resource, a guide that managers and leaders, because there's a distinct delineation and difference between management and leadership, needed to become more effective and competent at management and leadership. And the reality today is people feel post pandemic, right? Less psychologically safe, less well taken care of in the workplace. Where just a couple years ago, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, managers and leaders were empathetic, their emotional intelligence was high, their commitment to taking care of you first, and then the work was priority number one. Yet in 2024, we are forcing people to return to the office without exception. We are removing optional, a hybrid work. And the question is why, right? And I can't fully answer that question, but what I do know is I wrote this book to help leaders recognize we got to get out of our head and into the heart of the people we say we lead or we are leading. Because at the end of the day, if you're just focused on process, if you're just focused on output, you're not, in fact, a leader. You are managing a process and you are counting the number of widgets that people produce. And so the book, Safe, Seen, Heard, and Valued, is really just a reflection of my leadership ethos. And my leadership ethos is a reflection of who God is and who God says we are. God sees us for who we are. God is the first and foremost authority on psychological safety. God hears our prayers, our ambitions, our hopes, and God values us because of just who we are. Not what we do, not how we do it. You say this all the time. It doesn't matter what you do, it matters what your heart uh, puts out into the world. What legacy do you want to leave? And so the book to me is a resource and a guide, and it's volume one, right? So it is the first of a series of equipping, empowering tools. Like I said, I'm about action. I'm not going. I don't want. I used to be the type of manager who talked and talked and talked. Now I'm the type of leader who equips, shows you the way, so you can go the way, and I'm here to help you be successful on the journey.
Wow. I love that, man. Safe, seen, valued, and heard. I think that's what everybody just wants in life, and it's very hard to understand the mindset that no one needs to feel safe, no one needs to feel seen, no one should feel valued, no one should feel heard. As long as you are producing what I want you to produce, that's what I need from you. And I love the mindset. I love the analogies that you offered, and I see the passion that you have about this subject. Because that's right. Just because you are a high performer does not mean that you will be a good leader of people.
It's,
You just know how to be very disciplined in your responsibility and follow the checks.
yeah,
But being a leader is about servanthood, right? Being a servant. I want to see you model the way so I can follow the way
right.
versus you telling me this is the way it should be and this is how you do it. But I've never seen you do it. That's like me saying, I'm gonna sell you a course on how to become, a millionaire, and I don't have any money, right? Or selling you a course on, how to be, the best personal trainer, and I don't train anymore, and you don't see me with any clients, right? So I think
Right.
there should be some proof in the pudding, and like you said, emotional intelligence within that space, and I feel like that's an area that we lack relationally,
Yeah.
with our internal relationships, with our external relationships, professionally, and just in every space. So these are good, great frameworks for how to do things the right way. And honestly, I never understood this, and then we'll move on. One thing I learned when I was in the leadership, I actually started managing people at like 20 and a half years old, 21. I was promoted to an E5 sergeant in the military, and I had 3 soldiers under me at that time. So I was responsible for their well being, for their training, for all that stuff. Now, I didn't know much about leadership, but I'd seen it modeled, and I had mentors and leaders that said, you take care of your people will take care of you.
Right.
People don't care what you know until they know how much you
Know
care.
how much? Yeah.
Right. And then they'll run through a brick wall for you when you show them that you care. And so I just never get this ideology that you're basically a number, a robot, and you come perform this job for me, and you're getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting a paycheck, but then also understand that there's life going on.
That's right.
This job is how they feed their family, but it's not who they are.
Yeah.
And so
It's
once
what
we
they.
understand that, right, and we look at people and we say, okay, let me try to meet that person where they're at, and let help me just try to understand what this person is possibly dealing with, because you never know on the back end what somebody's going through.
That's
So
right.
just that little bit of courtesy, and I think the biggest issue with all of this, right, being safe, seen, valued, is heard, is a lot of people don't know how to communicate.
Yeah. That.
Once you become a better communicator, you become better in life in every area. So being able to communicate with your team. Go ahead. I see you
Listen.
want to jump in.
I do. I do. I'm trying to contain myself. I have said that 3 times. This is the third time communication has come up. When I went and got my oil change, I was talking to the young man who was doing my oil change, and I said, if you want to change your life, if you want to build an amazing anything, get good, if not great. Just get good at communication, right?
Mhm.
Then when I went to the auto parts store to pick up a filter for my car, one of the young men said he had just graduated with a degree in communication. And so I
Hmm.
said, what are you doing with it? And he says, I don't know what I want to do with it. I said, invest some time in figuring out what you're going to do with this amazing skill called communication. Because once you become a better communicator, you change your personal and your professional life. You go from average to good to great just because you know how to say, what to say, when to say, and what not to say, when not to say it, and how not to say it, right?
Hmm.
Communication is a life changing skill that will create a healthy marriage, that will create a healthy business, that will create healthy friendships, that will, as you're a parent to 4 beautiful children, will help you to be the best parent, father that you can to your individual children.
Hmm.
Too many leaders try to communicate and they think they have good communication skills the same to each person of their team. That's like saying that you have to eat this burger. All 10 of you have to eat this burger. When you got vegetarians, you got pescatarians, you have people who are allergic to buns. Maybe they can only have gluten-free buns. Maybe they communication means good communicators ask more questions,
Hmm.
good questions, so they can get good information so that their actions demonstrate safety, security, compassion, empathy, most importantly, that I care about you. So that communication thing, when you said it, it just riles up in my spirit because I know the power of being a good communicator.
Yes, yes, it's a lost art, and but see, I think the biggest problem for a lot of people that get into leadership, or they've been fortunate enough to be identified as, we think you're a leader, we're going to promote you based on whatever the value set they use to pick leaders in their organizations, right? Sometimes the problem is, the experience that they've had in corporate America with their management or shape the belief system that they have, right? And then those beliefs that they have shape their actions. And then the actions that they take shape their results. So a lot of times you have to kind of reverse engineer it and say, okay, I know I'm in management now, but I know how I felt when XYZ manager or leader came to me in this space. So let me not repeat that same cycle, because based on
Mhm.
experiences, my belief is that's not how you talk to people. And so if I believe that's not how you talk to people or you treat people, my actions will start to show it. And then my actions
Absolutely.
will give me the results, and you will have a good internal culture where people thrive, right? We even talked about it this morning in the being the king in the faces of manhood. And then we talked
Yeah.
about the shadow type to the king is the tyrant. And so you have tyrant leaders who end up, creating a culture that is counterproductive to meeting the bottom line, right? You think you're meeting the
Mhm.
bottom line just because you're hitting the numbers, but the numbers don't always tell the tale, right? There could be some anomalies in there. There could be just by the luck of the draw, the market fell right, but a
Mhm.
thriving culture will be indicated by the retention, by
That's
the
right.
the 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 atmosphere, right? The energy. So when you come in a team, so you've been in places where it's immediately you stepped in there, you like, this is dead energy. I don't know if I want to be here. And
Yeah.
then you've been in other places, you've been like, oh man, this is a great culture. I love it over here, man. I love it here. You know what I'm saying? So those are
I,
things I think we need to really pay attention to, even as leaders, right? And I think you're doing a
question.
phenomenal job of addressing that.
Listen, thank you so much, man. This is more than anything, leadership is my space. I'm a DEI practitioner, but at the heart of what I do is leadership. And I believe at the heart of who God has called us to be is to be leaders, leaders in our homes, leaders in our community, leaders in the workplace, leaders in the world. And so many people are afraid of leadership or too ambitious about leadership. Like I want the leadership title, but you don't have the equipping to be effective. And so you end up hurting people, or you might get the result, but at what cost? And you said it. The cost of poor leadership is high turnover, right? The cost of poor leadership is poor customer experience. The cost of poor leadership is inefficiency within the operations of the organization. And you know what hurts me more than anything, is in today's world, we see that showing up. And if I'm just going to be real, at church, we see a lot of uh, churches that don't have they have a leader, but they don't have organizational leadership where people feel empowered because they're equipped and they know their space. They know, this is what I own and I have the autonomy, right? And the trust of my leader, right? To own it, to drive it. And there are some great pastors out there that do it very well. We know a few personally, right? Um, but I think we're just in a pandemic of under-skilled and under-equipped leaders. And I want to circle back to something you said, because I hope your listeners caught it. Folks, he outlined what's known as the results pyramid when Carlton said experiences shape beliefs, beliefs shape actions, actions shape outcomes. Go look it up. It's a pyramid that says basically, I am who I am. I get the results that I get because of the experiences that I've had or that I'm creating, which lead to the belief system that I have, which leads to the actions that I'm willing or unwilling to take, which leads to the results that I'm getting. So if you want different results, as Carlton said, ultimate result that you want to have, what's the outcome that you want to have? What actions are required? What belief system to ensure that I can do these actions is necessary? But what experience do I have to even establish the belief system? I just love the results pyramid so much. It transcends sales. Wherever you are in an industry or organization, the results pyramid that you spoke about is critical because it will help you be a better person. It will help you be a better professional. Experiences, beliefs, actions, and ultimately results.
Yeah, man, that's I love it too, man. And the thing that you said that really stuck out with me when you were talking about leaders and in religious organizations, I think sometimes we get so caught up in following tradition that we actually miss the truth, what matters.
Come on now.
And so we need to really understand that sometimes God's truth does not look like the tradition that we're following, or the corporate truth doesn't look like the tradition that you followed in that corporation. Like that status quo of doing things, it may be outdated, may be antiquated. You don't change the value system, but you can change the delivery of it where it meets the present day need, right? You have to learn how to sometimes just repackage things, the same product, but just repackage and present it a different way. So leaving from the book, man, safe, seen, valued, heard. You can get that on Amazon. We will drop the link in the show notes as well, where you can go purchase and support my brother Robert H. Johnson. And I would love for everybody who has the opportunity to watch this podcast to please support this brother. And so now we're segueing into your TED talk. I watched it. We kind of talked about it before you did it, and was the title is the big L little L,
The
right?
power, the power of the little L.
Right, right. And the little L and the big L, like those things stuck out with me. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but I would love for you to kind of tell the people how you became a TEDx speaker, and then how you came up with the framework for that amazing keynote speech, because that's literally another book or another training, another course. Like there's so many things that you can do with what you have. Like it's like you can tell by what you're putting out that you are feeding your cup and
Mm,
you're filling your cup, and now it's just starting to run over with
mm.
the knowledge base that you're intaking. So tell us about this beautiful amazing speech, brother.
Thank you, Carlton. I appreciate it, man. The power of the little L, in its simplest form, it just is a reminder that each of us has more power than we realize, and too often we let people in big positions tell us that we are little people. When the truth is, in any organization, whether you have 5,000 people or 1,000 people, typically your leadership group is no more than 20 to 25% of that. That means that the organization is actually run by 75% of people who may not be in a position of leadership, but need to have personal leadership, need to take pride in the work, need to believe in the values, need to even stand in their own values. That helps us as an organization recognize we're not living who we say we are on the wall. You know this, most organizations have values that they hang on the wall proudly, But unfortunately, most leaders don't exemplify, role model, or hold themselves accountable to those values. But they want to hold the 75% accountable, right? We take the 75% and then we drop them in three buckets when it's annual review time. You're in the top 15, 20, bottom 15, 20, and then you have your middle about 60%. When the reality is, it requires that whole 75% to run this business effectively. So I have only, this TED Talk is just a manifestation of what I really believe and how I lead. Even on my own team, we are a round table, not a square table, right? I don't always have the best idea. I don't always have the most exciting and innovative perspective on something, but I have people around the table that do. I have people that have different experiences and perspectives. And if I don't let them know you're sitting at this table because your point of view, your perspective, your contribution is necessary, if I don't let them know, guess what they're only going to do? The bare minimum. You know what happens when you treat people well, when you empower people, when you remind people, you're a leader too, right? What happens is, you know this, Carlton, because we actually see it in church often, which is a good thing. We get what's called discretionary effort. And ladies and gentlemen, discretionary effort is the little extra stuff that you do that nobody sees that you do. It's the extra that you take on that you don't have to take on. It is the consideration that you take when you are about to make a decision that could affect the customer, that could affect the business, that could affect the team negatively. We don't have enough people that are willing to give discretionary effort in 2024 because we don't have enough leaders that recognize I may be at the front of the line, but it is really the folks behind me that have given me the privilege of leadership, that trust me to lead them, trust me to protect them, that I am working for, right? You mentioned this earlier, servant leadership. And I had sort of an epiphany the other day, and it reminded me of the power of the little L. Think about it. We tend to look for leadership at work because we think about it as the CEOs, the executives, the managers. But spiritually, we know the first servant leader was Christ, right? Right. Even God, because God gave his son for us. So God was the first.
Yep.
Jesus replicated and represented that. And then who I believe is the biggest example that you could have as a servant leader
Who is that?
is your mama. Is your mom.
Yeah. Uh
Because
huh.
our mothers, our mamas sacrifice so much for us. They literally feed us first and then eat last. Because that's what they say good leaders do, right? They go first, but they eat last. And I was thinking about that I was like, wow, in my life, like, what did that look like? It looked like my mom going to work every day. And even if she had to wake me up, I remember distinctly once when I was younger, it was me and my cousins. We didn't get to eat that evening, but they woke us up like 10 or 11 o'clock at night with some TV dinners. They don't make. I don't even know if they still make TV dinners, but I will never forget that. Because, do you remember TV
Yeah,
dinners?
I remember a good TV dinner, bro.
But it was a reminder that servant leadership starts at home. The first person you should see, right? We hope that you see and recognize is your parents, or if you're being raised by a single parent, that parent. When they get up every single day, put on that uniform, put on those clothes, get in their car, go to that job, work 8 to 12 hours a day to earn a check that is, I'm sure, undervaluing them, right? Not even their worth, to make sure you have a roof over your head, you have food to eat, you have cable, you have luxuries. Cable is a luxury, right? I know people think it's actually not even cable anymore, right? When we think about Wi-Fi, people think Wi-Fi is an absolute necessity. We grew up in a time where what was Wi-Fi? It was AOL.com. That was the first form of internet, right? But I bring it full circle to say that the power of the little L is the reminder that it starts at home and you then take it out into the world, into the workplace. But you first have to recognize that I have it. And I hope that everybody listening doesn't undermine and underappreciate your leadership. When you show up for you, when you show up for others, that's leadership, opening the door, right? Saying thank you and please and yeah, acknowledgement, action, awareness, discipline. Those are all the power and demonstrative actions that reflect the power of the little L.
Yeah, I love it, man. And so, but kind of basically what I heard you say in this synopsis and breakdown of your speech is right. If you major on the inner man, the outer man will become what God designed it to be. So,
Facts.
in order to become a big L, you have to work on the little L and act as a big L until you become a big L, right? And understanding who you are designed to be.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Understanding whose you are
Mhm.
and understand the limitless potential that you have if you invest in yourself. That is the greatest investment that we all can make in ourselves and to transform our mindset from little L to a big L,
Yeah.
right? I often think I'm thinking about the saying that the Alabama football team had last year and a little bit this year, and it's called they do this, and that's the L. It's called Link. Let all naysayers know. The first naysayer you have to let know is yourself. You know what I'm saying? And we have to understand that you can manage yourself or you can lead yourself, right? Leading
Break it
yourself
down.
is so leading yourself is you become someone who inspires and influences others just by example,
Yeah.
by the vision you have, and just by the confidence that you have.
Mhm.
Managing is this is what you need to do. Like some of us manage our families, some of
Mhm.
us lead our families. Some of us we inspire our children to be the greatest version of themselves. We influence them to understand that they can be greater than anything that they can think or imagine.
Yeah.
And we put them in places and spaces for them to cultivate what's in them.
Yeah.
Managing them is just here's your phone. Go be in your phone all day.
Yeah.
Right? Just doing enough to get by. That's managing.
That is
That's what
managed.
managers do. Enough to get by to say I checked the box. So I would say to the listeners, what type of man are you leading, or what type of mother are you in leading
Yeah.
and managing your home? And
Mm.
so reflect. And I could say there was a lot of time I probably was a manager because I've come from an era where that's pretty much all they knew how to do is
That's right.
manage.
Command and
And I
control.
can't exactly. And I can't fault them because that is all that they grew up on. We often say that, and you often hear it said, you come out looking like your parents' decisions, you finish looking like your own decisions. What decisions are you making in your life to become a big L, a leader of your family, a leader within your community, and a leader within your profession?
Mhm.
Because some people say some people are just born to lead, right? They have that intrinsic ability that God has given them. But also you can work on becoming a powerful, impactful leader by the things that you do. And so what I'm hearing you say is work on you until people see the big L in you.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to say I'm a leader, I'm becoming this. It's you what you do begins to emit a signal so strong that
That
it
people,
attracts people.
yeah, they can't deny it. That is exactly what it is. When you own your little L power, your little leader power, it opens the door for big positional leadership power because people will see, wow, Carlton shows up. He steps up, he leans in, he sacrifices, he's willing to share. Because here's the other thing: being a leader doesn't just mean you're doing the work or you're working hard or you're it also means speaking up for the things that affect the people that you lead. That's really where the pain is in the workplace today. That's why Gen Z is like, I don't want that, right? My mama, my daddy, my parents, they may have accepted that, but Generation Z is changing the course of how we work. And I love it because it is in alignment with my values. I do think you should go to work and feel safe. If you don't feel safe in your own home, you should at minimum go to work and feel safe, because a business is guided by principles and values, compliance, and culturally, right? But we also know this culture, as they say, eats strategy for lunch, because if you have a poor culture, you can have the best business, but it's going to fail. If you have great culture, you can have an average business. And when I say business, I mean concept, idea, and it thrives. Why do you think there's so many burger restaurants? There's McDonald's, Burger King, Hardee's, Arby's, there's In-N-Out Burger, there's Red Robin. They're all making the same thing. But what makes them different and unique are the ingredients. And one of the most important ingredients in any business, in any church, in any family is the people, the decisions you make, and how you show up as a leader, as a manager. Or here's the other thing, we also have people who are just in the audience and they're looking at their life while people direct them and tell them what to do. They're not owning. You said a word that I love, confidence. They're not owning the confidence that God created them with. The reason why I can do why I was able to do a TED talk and write a book and build a great career and be an executive, and it's because I believe who God says I am. I don't need anybody. The Bible says, study the show thyself approved. It says, when thy mother and thy father forsake thee. The Bible is the best set of values and principles and guide blueprint that we can have. But most people, the data shows, go to church, hear good sermon, they get excited, and then they get sad on Monday because they got to go to a job they don't want to be at. They got to go to a home they don't want to be at. They don't feel loved. They don't feel safe, seen, heard, and valued. I have to create that first for me before I
Mm.
expect anyone else to do it.
Wow, that's good, right? If you don't feel safe with yourself, if you don't see yourself, if you don't value yourself, and if you don't hear yourself, how do you expect anybody else to do it, right? And the thing I think about in that space is oftentimes we let our habits destroy the harvest that we could
Mhm,
reap because
mhm.
we don't do the work. We are in love with the idea of showing we're doing the work, but internally it is a 5 second clip. It is a 30-second clip that we're showing to social media to say, hey, look at me, I'm doing the work. But the real work would show up when you really start to put it in. And you will have a different aura about yourself when you walk around. You don't have to say, hey, I'm working out. People be like, man, what are you doing? You look different. You talk different. You seem smarter. Like what have you been doing, bro? Because they're watching and they're wanting to see an end result from what they're watching. Or they want
Right.
to see progression from what they've been watching. But
Yeah.
if you're just showing a short clip and there's no progression, they put you in that category just like everybody else. You are capping, as the youngins say. And I like this. Usain Bolt said it that he trained 15 years to run a 10-second race.
Listen,
No one wants to train 15 years for 10 seconds.
but the world champions do it. Kobe talked
Exactly.
about the same thing, 10,000 hours. Whatever, it's 10,000 or a number of shots or hours.
Yeah.
That's
Five. I think it's 5,000 to become an expert at anything.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. An
It's,
hour a day for
it's
like 5 years or something like that.
exactly. But this again, the word says that renew daily. That means you get to try it again. You get to start over, even if you made a mistake yesterday. Listen, I made a lot of leadership mistakes. I made a lot of relationships mistakes. I made a lot of familial mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. The one thing I've done though is not let the mistakes define who I am. It is take the lesson and the blessing from the mistakes, because mistakes are both lessons and blessings. And so many people love to highlight the blessings. That's why I love what you said. Don't live your life on a highlight reel. Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn, Facebook, those are highlights. And we typically only show the highlight. And listen, I'm guilty of that too. But what I've also decided is I don't share a lot of my highlights. I share the things that I believe will empower, equip, inspire, and that are true, right? Um, because people need to see, yeah, Carlton is doing amazing. Wow, like, because then it creates curiosity. If Carlton can do it, maybe I can do it. But the question is, am I going to ask Carlton? Am I going to reach out, right? And say, Carlton, can you tell me how? Too often we see the what without understanding how long it took Carlton to get to the point in which he talk about my highlights, right? Where Carlton is also a corporate dropout, but Carlton also, after dropping out of corporate America, picked up the purpose that God has been calling you to your whole life. Carlton is building Mindset U. Carlton is launching Genesis in 2025. Carlton is a podcast producer, host, putting great content, spiritual and professional and personal and all development,
Mm-hmm.
right? This didn't just happen overnight. You've been putting in the work, and we're just seeing, right? The
Right.
manifestation of the work.
And you know the beauty about putting the work, I'm thinking about that as you are speaking about that. The beautiful thing about being putting in the work, it looks so much more abundant,
Yeah.
and people don't even realize the struggles, the issues, the things that you're dealing with on the back end.
Hmm.
So it's beautiful to see me put in the work, right?
Yeah.
But you don't really understand the suffering, the pain, what's going on. People see the wins, and they are wins, right? It's just
Yeah.
the progress, but they don't know the sleepless night, the depressed days, the
Yeah.
struggle that you've gone through, like the time you're like, okay, how am I going to make this work?
Yeah.
And so they only see the highlights, but they don't see the failures. You know what I
I,
mean? They don't see you falling flat on your face and you questioning. You know, I heard somebody say, and I read this, and it's a beautiful thing. And then we're going to segue into the next topic. But as I was reading the word the other day, and I saw something, it says, I had this epiphany that God showed me. So the Bible is full of like two-part stories.
yeah.
You see a promise from God, and then you see a fulfillment of God, right? But if you read the story, the middle, in the middle is pure turmoil and chaos, and then you're really like, bruh, did I hear the beginning promise correct?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because yes, it's up. The promise is amazing, and that's what's driving me because I know where I'm supposed to be going. But nobody told me about the pothole I was gonna fall into. Nobody told me about the ditch I was gonna fall in. Nobody told me about the wrecks I was gonna be in as a result of driving to the destination.
Yeah.
When I'm about to, I feel like I'm about to run out of gas. I feel like life is just overwhelming me, right? And I'm saying, did I hear what you said correctly, God? Did I understand who you are? Did I hear the message like I'm supposed to hear it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I
nobody sees that. And they don't
that
understand that. But if you look at Joseph,
yeah.
if you look at Abraham, if you look at David, David was anointed king and then he went back to herding sheep.
Yes.
Joseph had a dream and he told he was going to become his brothers were going to bow down to him. And the next thing you know, he was in the pit.
Yes.
God had his spirit descend upon his son and said, "This is my son in who I am well pleased." And if you read the word, it says, then immediately he was carried to the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights of fasting and being tested.
Yeah.
So you have the promise, then you have this spacing that makes you see that I see the promise properly. And
Mm.
then if you endure the middle, if you persevere, if you keep the faith, because what's happening in the middle, God is building you and molding you, and you have to be pliable, and He's setting a foundation. Because when you get to the promise and the lights are on you, when the lights are and you're on that stage, it's hot, and people
Yeah.
can see you in UHD vision, and so they will see every speck, every spot, everything wrong with you. But if you just went from the promise to fulfillment, you won't be able to withstand.
No, listen, I love what you've just outlined. I like to think of it as you get the promise, you have the middle, which is transformation, and then you have the attainment or fulfillment of the promise. God shows us who He's called us to be. That doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. And so many people believe because I see it, that means it's going to happen tomorrow. Well, until you see it, right? Vision, until you have the vision for it, you got to have the vision. You have to write the plan so that others can read it. And you're the first to read it, to see it, to repeat it. And then you have to act on it. And then you have the achievement. So you have the promise and you have the transformation and then you have the fulfillment. The transformation is to do exactly what you said, make you the person you need to be to sustain the achievement of the promise. Once you get it, think of all the people we know from entertainment to business to church who got a promise, and then when they fulfill the promise, because maybe they didn't go through the whole process of transformation, they were not able to sustain it. How sad is it to be able to do something once? I'm not going to, before I was a author and published author, I was an author. I was writing. You know, we've had even our conversations about writing. Before I did a TEDx, I would always finish conversations, whether it was professionally or personally, with thank you for listening to my TED Talk. In the process, I was gaining the experiences and the skills necessary to be effective and to impact, right? We can't skip the transformation because if we're the same person that we were when we got the promise and then when it's fulfilled, you can't endure for the long haul. That's why you train for 15 years for 10 seconds. And how many times has Usain Bolt won his race? Multiple, because he continues the transformation process. I got somebody else that I'm running against next. I don't care who they are because my biggest competitor is myself. I got to beat me. If I'm the world champ, if I'm the world record holder, I have to beat me next time. I can't run the same, right? So that means I had to go through, I achieved it. The promise was you're going to be an Olympic gold world champion. There's so much work that goes into getting to that. But then once you get there, there is another promise. That's the thing too. People think it's one thing. I was made to be, let's say, a parent, a father, right? God told me I'll be a father. That's one piece of your entire purpose. The promise may be the fatherhood, but the transformation of establishing discipline, letting go of the things that maybe I like that prevent me from being the best father, right? You got to go through that transformation to then become the thing. Because guess what? Once you become a father, your child will be of a certain age where they're a young adult and they're adult. Then you have to transition being raising a child to how do I parent an adult? Like there are always other levels. You know this firsthand. Oh,
No, I definitely understand it. I was just saying, right, man. I definitely love it, man. And what I was thinking about as you were saying that, right, there's levels to success. And I don't think people understand the levels of success. There's attaining success, then there's retaining success, and then there's sustaining success. So the
yes.
three levels of success, it's great to get to attain it, but now you have to retain it, keep it, and then once you start, you keep it for a period of time. Now, how do I sustain it for generations to come?
Right.
And
That's
that is the work you do as the person you will become in sustaining that success, right? So, with that said, let's talk about the. I think we're going to name this episode "The Power of Faith," because you have vision. Some people only have sight.
mm,
You've had vision to say, "I'm going to be an author." You've
mm-hmm.
had vision to say, "I'm going to be a TEDx speaker" before you even saw it.
Yeah.
That is the power of faith. So, what is faith and the power of faith to you? Like where did you get this mindset where you can say, you know what, I can do this, even though I really don't know how.
Yeah, I can start with saying I got it from my mom. And one thing my mom always poured into me is you got to have a relationship with God, and you got to have that for yourself. She never tried to control, dictate that relationship, and I think that was so powerful. So she exposed me to God. Then when I was about 16, 17, I chose to accept God into my life for myself. I, accepted Christ. I got baptized. These are my individual decisions. And we have to remember that faith requires you to make an individual and personal decision for you to see the realization of whatever it is that you have a vision for God to do in your life. And even before I knew what vision was, what I will say is I always knew that I wanted better than how I grew up. And what I mean by that is, I grew up like so many people in a very tumultuous household. There was addiction, there was abuse, physical, mental, all of the things. And I chose and believed a long time before this big old age of 47, I knew that I was different. I knew that I was called to do something different. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that God was the quarterback, was the coach, was all the things, and I'm the player. Teach me, show me. And I got to be honest, it just started with my mom. And so once I embraced that at 16, 17, it just followed me. So that led me to being the first person to go to college in my family. I didn't have a perspective on what it meant to go to college because I didn't see anybody do it. But God surrounded me with the right people. God brought coaches and mentors in my life. Shout out to college advisors in high school, Miss Black, um, counselors, Miss Brown, Miss Athena Jackson in college, Robert Turner, who mentored me, Carl Parker, who hired me for my first internship. And that led to my first corporate job. Um, Once you recognize that you are actually living on faith, whether you call it something or not. Because every day that we get up, get in our car and drive on the road, we're believing that we're going to make it home safely, but we're not conscious of that. And if we're not conscious of it, we're not appreciative of it. And if we're not appreciative of it, we actually can't maximize it. You can't maximize something that you're not aware that you have, that you just take for granted. Oh yeah, I woke up this morning. Oh yeah, I drove to Walmart. Oh yeah, I drove 6 hours. Like I remember when you came to Atlanta, you were in Atlanta, then you drove several hours to go see your mother in Alabama. You had to have faith and belief that I'm going to make it to my destination, enjoy my time with my mom, get back in the car, and then get on a flight and get back home to my family. Faith is two parts. The Bible is very clear about it, right? Faith is the belief that God will do what he said he is going to do. The second part of faith is I'm willing to put in the work until God does what he says he's going to do. And when you think of everybody, that faith is the transformation. Think about it. You get a glimpse of who God says he's going to make you. Nothing changes overnight. You still believe that I'm going to become this person God says that I'm going to be. That's faith. But just like David, you got to go back sometimes to tending the sheep until the time, the transformation, the readiness, as we like to call it in corporate America, happens. Because once you're ready, you are now enabled to execute on who God and what God said he's going to do in your life. And so for me, I don't do anything without ever first saying, God, I believe you for this. God, give me clarity, order my steps. Every day I wake up, that's my prayer, right? And so faith without works, faith, work, we don't get the results. But when you have that little mustard seed of faith, that's what, let me be honest, that's what confuses me so much. God doesn't say I need you to have a semi truck full of faith. I just need you to have a little bit. And the little bit eventually over time becomes more and more and more because God does what he says he's going to do when you believe and trust him through faith.
That's good. That's good, brother. I love it, man. And the thing that I'm learning in life is as you're going through the process of life, the enemy is always trying to attack and
Mhm.
destroy your faith. And God is using that attack in life to build your faith.
Yeah.
And see, he understands that if you lack faith, you can't please God. The Bible says it's impossible to please God without faith. So that is one of his primary tools to you to not believe God is who he says he is because the situation looks a way that you didn't think it was going to look. And the question I will pose to all the people that are listening today is God still God when the situation doesn't turn out the way that you planned in your mind? Is he still God then? Or is he just our genie in the bottle? So we have to really think about is God God because he's doing what I want him to do? Or is he God because he's sovereign
Wow.
in all things? And so he knows what's best. So the route and the roads that we might have taken may not be the best road for us to take. The thing that we wanted might be the thing that pulls us from God. And that's the how you know it's from God and how you know it's not from God. When God gives you something, it's going to pull you closer to him. It's going to deepen your relationship with him. When the prince of the air, the enemy, the devil, Satan gives you something, it's going to pull all your attention and focus from who God is. It's going to destroy and replace the relationship that you have with God. That thing will become your God. So
Yeah.
we have to be careful in that space and understand that this is a battle in a war that's already won.
It's already won. It's a fixed fight, as you like to say.
And the battle is not really lost. It's just you're learning something in the battle. So it may feel like an L for you, but it's actually a gain.
Yeah.
So with what you're saying and the mindset that we've been able to cultivate through development, growth, man, I want to just turn to the Genesis, right? Because you are going
Yes.
to be one of the keynote speakers at this conference. So what can the people look for when you grace the stage, Mr. TEDx speaker,
Oh,
Mr. Author, Mr. Corporate Dropout? Like what can we expect from you? You know, you don't give us everything, but you know, I've heard you speak. I've watched your TEDx speech. I know you, so I know that you're going to bring the heat and the fire because the motto of this, the theme of this conference is "Come from out among the tombs."
yeah.
And we as men, we often are in the tombs of our past, the tombs of our trauma, the tombs of our mistakes, the tombs of alcoholism, the
Mm,
tomb, the tomb of being a tyrant, the tomb of everything that was sent to destroy us. We usually fall victim to it, and then we kind of pull ourselves back from the community and the people that can help us navigate that. So that's the theme for the conference, and you are somebody that's going to bring some antidote to a pathogen that's out here trying to destroy who men are, who we're supposed to be.
mm. Man, I'm so excited about the Genesis, and I'm so proud of you because I remember when it was an idea when you got the vision, and now the vision is about to be manifested, right? And so, first and foremost, congratulations. I'm beyond proud of you and excited
Thank you, brother.
to do. Of course, this is what we do, right? So, for me, what I'm bringing to the Genesis is giving one. I can't give it all because one, I don't know it all yet, right? I don't know what God will specifically want me to share, but I do know it will revolve around reminding us as men, equipping us as men that at the end of the day, before you can be anything else to anyone, first and foremost, you have to understand your vertical relationship and own that with God so that you can live out this thing horizontally. And so many of us as men are we're hurt, we're broken. We have that HOLE in our heart, and we have to recognize how. Because it's one thing to say you need God, And I don't think people doubt that they need God. I think they just don't know how and what that looks like. I think they think it needs to be this big, grand, amazing, enlightening, burning moment when at the end of the day, the very fact that as you were born, the very fact of you being born, God, that hole when you're a baby, right? It's you don't know it's there obviously, but it is like a mustard seed. But the older we get and the more aware we become, the more pain we feel, right? The more experiences we have when we lean into different addictions, whatever those could be, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it is. Money is an addiction, right? My hope is to not just empower. My goal, my commitment is to equip. And equipping is a result of providing a framework, a process. So, in and at the Genesis, I'm going to bring what God gives me to bring in terms of a framework. Leadership um, is who I am. It's not just what I do. So I commit to bringing some tools so that the men that are there can walk out feeling, again, not just enthusiastic, not just excited, not just empowered, but they know how to do what they need to do to become the man that God birthed them to be. That's my commitment. That's what I'm bringing to.
I love it. I already know you're gonna kill it. I already know you're gonna bring and leave it all on the stage. And I'm really looking forward to this, right? Building a space and a remnant of men that really just fall under the biblical manhood mantra of obedience to God, and then God walking out what you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to become through that obedience. So I'm really looking forward to that. I am excited about you coming and being with us and blessing us with your talents and your gifts. So yeah, let's listeners, you guys, you're subscribed to this podcast. Stay tuned. Now I have to put a disclaimer out there. This is for men.
Yeah,
So this go around, if you're a woman and you're listening, we appreciate you. We want you to get your man a ticket.
that's right.
You know what I mean? Bring him so he can become the king, the lover, the king, the warrior, the lover, the friend that you need, and he'll know how to turn those off, those faces off, so he can become the best thing for your family and lead your family in a way that God has designed him to lead. And us ultimately, what we are looking to do with Mindset You, with the Genesis, is to create a group of leaders and men who are unapologetically following the blueprint that God has laid out for them and just walking in a space that they are comfortable in their skin. They're being their authentic self. They don't have to be me. They don't have to be RJ. That they find their lane in life
Hmm.
and they walk in their lane. Because here's the beautiful thing about finding your lane, and you alluded to it earlier, right? Like if you think about it, there's different blood types for a reason. There's different builds for a reason. There's a thousand burger restaurants out there,
Hmm.
but they're out there because somebody patronizes that business. So they will be patronizing the authentic version of you
Yeah,
because God has assigned them to your frequency. I've got this analogy like we all have an internal Wi-Fi transmitter, and every one of us has been put here to solve a problem for somebody.
that's right.
The sphere that you are called to influence, your customer already has your Wi-Fi passcode. It's
Yes,
like your neighborhood. If you pull up your phone or your laptop or your iPad and you ride down my street right now, you will see umpteen signals.
that's right.
But I can only connect to the signal in my house because I have the passcode.
That's it.
Somebody has the passcode to your Wi-Fi signal. God has already paid that bill for them for you to emit a signal that they need. And so when they connect to you, they'll be able to download what God has put in you to give to them. But you cannot do that if you don't show up as the authentic version of who God designed you to be. The reason some of us are not able to move in our gifts, we're not able to be where God wants us to be, and we're not where God wants us at, is because we're following behind somebody else's gift. We're mimicking somebody else's gift. We picked up what they do and tried to use it to our advantage.
Wow.
When you become your authentic self and you do the inner work, it's going to show up outside of you, and people are going to say, that's authentically Carlton. That's authentically RJ. That's authentically you, listener.
Mm.
You can't be me. I can't be you. That's why I love collaboration,
Yeah.
because your gift, I, I can't do nothing with the gift that you have. That is your gift. The blessings that God has assigned to you are yours. What do I look like trying to beat you to spaces I know that you are called to because they look lucrative to me? I
Right.
can get in that same space and it becomes a black hole, and
Mm.
I don't make half as much money as you make, or I get my foot in the door and I show up as a version of myself that doesn't resonate or connect with anybody. So this is what we're talking about within the Genesis. Finding your lane, finding your space, submitting your signal. So the people that God has assigned to you, and it doesn't have to be a marketplace ministry, it doesn't have to be a pulpit ministry. It could be you just talking to somebody at the getting your oil changed, or at the
Mhm.
restaurant when you're waiting to sit down, or you run into somebody at a sporting event, or you start talking to somebody at the gym. And what it is that you have, they need at a specific time.
That's it. That's it. Listen, Carlton, and really, I want to speak to the listeners. What you just said is so powerful. The Genesis is, it will be a life changing experience. I talked to three gentlemen today. Three, they were all below 30. And one of the questions I like to ask people is, well, what's your big thing? What is your dream? What is your goal? And when I tell you what was heartbreaking was that all of them said, I don't know. These are 21, 23 or 24, and a 27, 28-year old. Three men who said, I don't know. And this is why the Genesis was given to Carlton as the vision, is to help a lost generation find out who they are in Christ so they can live out their purpose. And so, gentlemen and ladies who are listening, if you want a different outcome, you got to establish and build in some new actions, aka habits. But you're not going to build those new actions and or habits if you don't establish a new belief system. And you don't get a new belief system until you experience something different. So if you are ready to identify, get clear on what you want your life, who God has called you to be in your life, right? And how you actions, how you do that, and what mindset, belief system is mindset you need to have, and belief system is established in mindset by experiences. You won't want to miss the Genesis 2025.
Ooh, that's dope. I love it. I love it. So we're gonna get ready to close this conversation because we can go on for hours and hours just
You know
having
how we do.
these thought provoking conversations that ultimately allow us to be the iron sharpens the iron. Friendship and basically challenge each other and hold each other accountable for being a better version of ourselves, the highest form of Carlton, the highest form of RJ that God has predestined. And so being in this space and just being in community with you and the fellows within the community is helping me do that. It's helping me stay accountable to the things that I said when the motivation or the enthusiasm leaves me. The discipline kicks in because I know I have people that are holding me accountable and expecting me to show up like I said I would. So thank you for that. The last question I want to ask you before we close out, I know you mentioned that you're in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and with what's going on in society, the United States of America at this time, where they are just trying to systematically dismantle DEI. They think that it's a level playing field.
Hmm.
So, what do you see in the future for this space, and what do we do to combat the ideology that they have believed for so long? What do we do to save ourselves, so to speak? Because it's obvious that no one is going to save us but ourselves. So what do we do? How do we build? How do we grow in the midst of all this turmoil and this bad energy that's around that word? He's a DEI hire, she's a DEI hire, meaning that you are overqualified for the job, but you just got the job because of your skin color. When a lot of times that's not the fact. Is you were the best qualified person for that opportunity, and you wouldn't have gotten that opportunity if these systems weren't in place. We see it play out with the cabinet right now, right, where
Right.
they're trying to put radio host and supposed they have this experience, but they're not holding a candle to the previous regimes and things that have done and been in place probably since I've been grown, right? You had to have a certain level of skill, a certain level of ability, a certain level of acquired knowledge to even be considered for these things. So, what's your thoughts on that, and how do we move forward?
Yeah, it's a big question, and I've been getting this question a lot because of the work that I do. I'll start with this first and foremost. The work of inclusion, equity, diversity, which ultimately should lead to belonging and an ability to navigate within corporate spaces and or governmental spaces or educational spaces. That work is never going to stop. I don't care who's in office. I don't care what policy is removed or what policy is implemented. There will always be people. There will always be organizations that are committed to creating a space where people feel safe, seen, heard, and valued. The reality is, DEI can be summed up in the title of my book. DEI is to ensure that everyone, not just a select few, feels safe, seen, heard, and valued. Everyone, not just a select few, as is reflected in our future administration's cabinet. Everyone is represented, or at minimum, you have to represent the population of people you serve. That's the ultimate outcomes of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is ensuring that women, regardless of color, right? Women benefit and can earn equity in their pay. And who doesn't want their daughters, black, white, brown, yellow, or green? Who doesn't want their daughters, wives, or sisters to earn an equitable income or to earn the same amount as you? We can go down that path, but that is why this work is important. Until you mentioned something earlier, and the sad part is until people experience pain, they will not have compassion for somebody else. That's why we live in the state of the world that we live. The work of inclusion, equity, and diversity and belonging is to prevent painful experiences because we've been through enough painful experiences. That's why, for some people, repealing those places a group of people back into a position in which they are not a threat, which they are not competitive, which they are not perceived as even human beings. Because remember, that's what was, and then for some people, the current belief system of Black and Brown people. It's not just about Black, Brown, white, Black, Brown women, LGBTQIA, people with disabilities. All of us are disenfranchised in some way. Because guess what? There is a white, poor LGBTQIA person with a disability that needs diversity, equity, and inclusion to help them navigate the corporate, governmental, and our educational spaces. So that's my position. Diversity, equity, and inclusion will never go away. You know what will happen? Like anything, is it evolves, and you can evolve. Remember, purpose, transformation, achievement. The purpose of the work is going to remain. We are just undergoing a transformation that is painful, it is hurtful, it is disappointing. But guess what? My grandmother was here. My grandmother's mother and her mother's mother was in worse, right? We can't forget it's, yes, it's improved, but we are on the process and a journey. that means that it will need to continually improve. And so DEI, you're disappointed in the organizations that are dismantling, but it is a reminder of who they actually are. That's the thing. When people change up, they were always that. It was performative. So that's how
Yep.
they were always that, right? When people change up, they
Mm-hmm.
were always that. Don't be surprised. Don't be shocked. You might be surprised, but never be shocked. When people show you, in the great words of Maya Angelou, who they are, believe them. And so we have companies that are showing us who they really are, and we got to believe it. That's one. What can we do? First and foremost, acknowledge that it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be hurt about where we are. Give yourself a day. If you need a week, but don't waste any more time being disappointed. Now is the time to do three things. One is to equip yourself with the tools, the resources, the information that you need to be better and do better for yourself and for your family and for your community.
Mm-hmm.
Two is that last and last thing. Community is going to be more important than ever going into 2025. Ensure that you build and establish a solid network and community of people who are the same in your beliefs, but maybe farther along the journey. You got to have a mentor, a coach, peers, and then people that you're bringing along the journey with you. The last thing is we got to have faith. We got to have faith and remember that God is ultimately in control. The first DEI practitioner was Jesus Christ. He talked
Mm.
to people that no one wanted to talk to. He empowered people that no one wanted to empower. And he resurrected. He did something that people didn't believe was possible. And I just believe that when we leave from those three places, equipping community and maintaining and going deeper in our faith, and I want to be very clear. I didn't say deeper in religiosity. I said deeper in your faith. Your spiritual man in person has to be cared for to thrive in this new system, this new world that we're about to enter. So it's rough, but I believe the best is ahead of us. And you got to keep that same energy. Don't waste it on yourself. Keep that same energy and let's grow forward.
Oh, love it. Great answer, brother. As always, this is an amazing conversation. Speaking with you, just sharing ideas, becoming who I believe is one of the foremost thought leaders in on leadership and other matters, development related in the world. I see bigger stages, more
Amen.
books,
Amen.
more opportunities, talk shows. I see all those things coming, down the pipeline for you. So, continue to show us what's possible. Continue to blaze your path that's authentically Robert. And what I want you to tell the people is one, how they can follow you. Two, how they can purchase the book. We'll add this information in the show notes as well. And just any closing thoughts that you may have as we shut down this episode of the Genesis podcast. This episode is the power of faith with my guy RJ. So RJ, you're up.
First and foremost, thank you so much, CY, Mr. 8020, for the invitation and opportunity to be in front of your amazing and dynamic community. And I'm honored to be a part of that community. Second, you can reach me in several ways. You can follow me on Instagram at I am the corporate dropout. I am the corporate dropout on Instagram. Let's connect on LinkedIn, Robert H. Johnson Jr. Many of us are building businesses and or building careers. Anything that I can do to support you all that are listening, I'm happy to do that. So follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Instagram. You can buy the book on Amazon.com. You just type in Safe, Seen, Heard, and Valued. You can also buy the book and find me via my website, www.rhjconsultinggroup.com, www.rhjconsultinggroup.com. And last but not least, if anything that I said resonated with you and you just want to get in direct touch, you can email me at info@rhjconsultinggroup.com. info at rhjconsultinggroup.com. And the last thought I'll leave you with is the same that we started with. At the end of the day, you are everything with your faith. You are everything with God. But you first have to believe it, which means you have to first be willing to embrace some new beliefs and embrace some new experiences. Let's grow together.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And also, I will add that if you're looking for leadership coaching, you're trying to elevate within your organization corporately or even your business, this is your guy. He's done it for over 20 plus years. He's coached a lot of people, helped people corporately figure out strategy, discover their blind spots, their weak spots, areas for opportunity and growth. If you're looking for that, you need that. Every leader needs a coach. Even the highest level of coaches have somebody coaching them. You may not know who it is, but they're in the background coaching them. So, in closing, I want to leave you, you gentlemen, and you women, and you children that are listening to this podcast. We're going to close with the talking about be authentic today, right? The question I want to submit for your consideration, and I want you to marinate on this and think about it. Talk to yourself in the mirror, write it down on a piece of paper, whatever it is that you need to do. But I really need you to take this, internalize it, and then action it. Would you rather be loved for who you're not, or would you rather be loved for who you're not, or hated for who you are? Would you rather be loved for who you are not, or hated for who you are? Because you can't have the admiration of the world and not be who God designed you to be, because automatically you are out of alignment with His will for your life because you are not your authentic version. So, would you rather please man, or would you rather please God? I really need all of us to look at that, because the reason I ask you that is I've been guilty of it. So I'm only speaking on things that I deal with. I'm not speaking on things I heard. I'm just coming from an authentic place and saying, would you rather be loved, or would you rather be hated based on how you show up? You can show up as somebody that you're not and be loved and patted on the back, or would you rather be hated for who God designed you to be and be comfortable in your skin? Because here's the thing about it, they're going to love you, they're going to hate you, and they're going to love you again, no matter who you are. We see it all the time. They speak well of you one day and they tear you down the next day. And if you allow that yo yo to control you, you will be on an emotional roller coaster in the entirety of your life. And then you deal with it, depression, anxiety, all the things that come along with somebody else controlling how you feel. So, in closing, that is my thought. I appreciate you guys for taking the time. We went a little longer than normal, but I think there's something in here that everyone needs to hear, because I try to be led by the Spirit and by God to allow us to become an extension of the pen of His hand as we speak. So we appreciate you. Have an amazing Thanksgiving. Love on your relatives, because you do not know when there's an opportunity to see them again. And I want to dedicate this episode to my favorite aunt. We call her Etta Joe, Etta, but I called her Aunt Moochie. She met my uncle when I was 4 years old, so I've known her the entirety of my life. My uncle said she was one of my biggest fans. She was one of my biggest supporters, and she was so proud of the man that I was coming. So, in closing, we love you, Aunt Moochie. Rest in peace. You will be missed, and I don't understand it, but I pray for God's peace and comfort that surpasses all my understanding, and then let it guard my heart and my mind. And I ask that my viewership and my listeners, that you keep my uncle and my cousins in your prayers. We've literally had two deaths within the span of a month, my grandfather and now my aunt. So I'm speaking from experience again. Love on those that you can while you can. Nothing's guaranteed. This has been your guy, CY, Mr. 8020. And this is who?
The R.H. Johnson Jr.
Mr. Corporate Dropout, Mr. Author, Mr. TedX Speakers. Hey, we're gone. We love you. Have an amazing Thanksgiving.